How can you tell what the difference is between active and passive voice? I'll let you know what I know. Here we go. Hello, friends. My name is Jake Montanez, and in this video, I'm talking about active versus passive voice. And something I do on the side when I have downtime at work and have 5 minutes to spare here and there, I will critique other people's stories on Critique Circle. And one of my biggest things that I look at is state of being words such as am, is, was, were, are, be, being, and been. And those words are usually direct tells that somebody is using some sort of passive voice versus active voice. Usually, you want to just use those when they are equating something. This is this. If you're using it in the form of a verb, uh, you're not showing any sort of action. And I'll give you some examples here in just a second. All right, in this first instance here, we have what is passive voice, what was in the story that I was critiquing originally. And it said, it would have been smarter to attack Maolin since they were protected from the north by hundreds of ice-cold islands. Now, the two things I highlight are the words been, right there, and were. Been smarter, were protected. And that takes away from the active voice, takes away from being an active voice in this instance. So when I provided my critique, I provided this example here, which is more of an active voice. Now, this is always subjective. You can choose to do it however the way you want to. I tried to rephrase it and keep the same original intent for the next several instances. So for this one, I called it hundreds of ice-cold islands protected Maolin from the north, making it the smarter choice to attack. I've eliminated the were, I've eliminated the been, and I made the ice-cold islands providing an action. It's protecting Maolin from the north and also incorporating the smarter choice to attack by having it the smarter choice to attack. Is it perfect? Not necessarily, but it feels more active than it did when it was just we're protected. That's the big verb in the sentence. We're protected. The been smarter. You rephrase that to get rid of the been. It makes it a little bit better, and you can just see by word count, it's a little bit smaller than the original sense. So it gives you a little bit of conciseness to your word choice. And finally, for this last one, passive. Aslan never stopped being grateful that he was more concerned with how she held a sword rather than who was wielding it. Wanted to get rid of those was's and make it again more active with the choices of words. So my rewritten form of it was Aslan appreciated Duella's concern with how she wielded the sword instead of the prince. Actually, I put the emphasis there wrong. How she wielded the sword instead of the prince. And that gets rid of the concern, how he was more concerned. Instead, she is appreciating his concern. She's taking an active role in there in appreciation of his concern. Whereas before, she was accepting that he was concerned. Hopefully, you can see the difference there. And then the second part of it was with how she wielded the sword instead of the prince. Kind of changes the emphasis on how she wielded the sword rather than who was wielding it. The whole important part of what the author, I think, was trying to say was that she is the warrior, not her brother. And who was wielding it is can be kind of unclear what they're talking about. And what he was trying to get across was that the princess was the one wielding the sword, not the prince. So I just basically said that she's wielding the sword instead of the prince, rather than who was wielding it. It was the prince. I don't know. So I just made it a little bit more concrete, a little bit more active. She is doing something. She wielded the sword rather than how she held the sword. Little bit better of an improvement. Like I said, all of this stuff is subjective. You can come up with your own ways of doing it, and when you start taking an active look at what you're writing in your story and you see words like that, those am, was, were, are, be, being, been type words, try to come up with some better verb to describe what is going on. Feel what the action is that is supposed to be happening and latch onto that and use that word in the sentence rather than trying to use an equating word. And hopefully you can see that your writing will improve. Just tip and trick, the things that I see, like they immediately pop out to me whenever I read somebody is writing. Even when I'm reading my own stuff and I see that word, I'm like, does that need to be there? And in most cases I try to say yes, I am actually trying to make an equation, this equals that, instead of using it as the verb of the sentence. And when I realize I'm using it as the verb of the sentence rather than just saying he is dead, then I want to make sure that it makes sense for what I am trying to do. If you do start doing that, you'll clarify your wording a lot better and your story will be more actiony and feel better when the reader goes and reads it. If this breakdown from my critique circle example has been helpful and makes you recognize a little bit more the difference between active and passive, and I'm not a super expert on that either, that's just how I understand active and passive, go ahead and let me know in the comments below and give me a like and a subscribe if this has been helpful to you. And I appreciate you watching me and have a nice day. Thank you very much.